Hello everybody, welcome to the ASMR Review Show, and for this video I'm going to review the new Radiohead album, A Moon-Shaped Pool. I obviously do not have a physical copy of the album yet because it's only been released online, so maybe I'll put a nice little picture of it here, or something like that. And I'm just going to do this review track by track since I haven't done just a singular new album review on this channel yet. So I have my laptop here, and I'll probably just read a few of the lyrics that Genius.com has graciously provided for me to do this video with. They didn't do it specifically for me, I just looked. That doesn't matter. So, before I begin, a little interesting history about this album. What day is it currently? May 9th. So, right around the end of April, beginning of May, Radiohead deleted every single one of their posts from their social media sites, such as Facebook, Twitter, and their website, seemed to be deactivated. I've never looked at it personally, so it's almost as if they were trying to show us how to disappear completely. But they were found again. And their first post onto Instagram since then was just a singular picture of a bird. And a day later, that was followed up with the announcement of a new song and a video with it. And that song was the first track off of the soon-to-be-released album called Burn the Witch. And then a few days after that, another video was released for the song Daydreaming, which was directed by Paul Thomas Anderson, who has directed movies like There Will Be Blood, Boogie Nights, and Magnolia. And then, of course, with There Will Be Blood and The Master, Johnny Greenwood from Radiohead had worked on the score, so it made sense that they would collaborate on this. And then that announcement with that video came with the added news that the full-length album would be released online in a few days, which it just was. So literally just before I started filming, I went and listened to the album to prepare for this. So I do warn ahead of time that normally with albums my views change quite frequently. I think that there are a lot of things that can be missed on listens, and repeated listens are absolutely a must. So my opinion is probably going to change. But for the purposes of this video, it's going to be a quick review to let you all know how the album sounds. So, first things first, is it a good album? To that I say, it is Radiohead. Do you really have to ask? Well, I guess maybe some albums you might like more than others since they're always changing their sound, but yes, this is a good album. It's Radiohead. You know, it's not their best. It's not their worst. It's really good. There's a lot of great songs. I'm just going to read you the track listing here. Track listing is as follows. Interesting fact before I begin. It is in alphabetical order. That's probably intentional, knowing that it's Radiohead. Just a thing that myself and many others have noticed. The track listing is as follows. Burn the Witch, Daydreaming, Decks Dark, Desert Island Disc, Full Stop, Glass Eyes, Identikit, The Numbers, Present Tense, Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Sailor, Rich Man, Poor Man, Beggar Man, Thief, and True Love Waits. So, I'm going to go through this track by track, probably read a few of my favorite lyrics from the album. Before I do that, general thoughts and opinions. Since Radiohead are always changing up their sound in certain ways, it's a little hard to give it an overall clarification. But if I had to try and make comparisons to other albums, I would say that most of the songs either felt like a continuation of sound from their previous album, The King of Limbs, or an extension or callback to In Rainbows. I feel that while this is definitely a more different album, if I can compare it, it's definitely to their more recent stuff. You know, lyrically and vocally, there were some moments that made me think of Hail to the Thief, but I think they are long past the 90s style. It's definitely a more, late 2000s, early 2010 style that A Moon-Shaped Pool is more closely related to in the Radiohead discography, but then again, they're always different in certain ways. So, how can you truly compare? That's what makes them a great band. So, the first song was also the first single released with the music video, and that is Burn the Witch. The music video is like I think it was stop motion type video with little figurines, and the plot of the music video is pretty much like The Wicker Man, with this outsider coming to a foreign town with lots of sort of, witch cult-like vibes. So, yeah, from listening to this song, the first listen I had to it, I wasn't really closely focused on the lyrics, but I could tell this song probably has some kind of dark, anti-conformity type message to it, and you could pick up that. I mean, it's about witch hunts, and that way, burn the witch. But the thing I really like about Radiohead, what makes them one of my favorite bands, is the way they are able to take something that seems like a general concept, but do it in a very vague way, so that you could technically extrapolate these ideas to other concepts, such as, witch burning being related to not liking outsiders or conforming. And what was one of my favorite lines in this song? I really like the way the opening line goes. Stay in the shadows, cheer at the gallows, this is a roundup. And it was right from that first line, from hearing this song, that I knew I was in for a great Radiohead album. This is probably, interestingly enough though, I think the song that sounds the least like the rest of the album, as this one has a very upbeat, almost frantic pace to it, with the very plucking orchestration to it. I felt that most of the rest of the album was more ballad-based, to a certain extent. Very slow and melancholic, but more slow and melancholic than the rest of Radiohead's material. And Burn the Witch is probably one of my more favorite tracks off of the album. I'm definitely going to listen to that one a lot. Next track is Daydreaming, which was the second music video released, directed by Paul Thomas Anderson. This song, it's a competition between this and Full Stop for my favorite song on the album. This one is a slow piano ballad. I think some of the orchestration to it made me think of How to Disappear Completely. It follows a basic, simple piano melody that slowly builds up. Lyrically, most people seem to have consensus that it could be about Tom York's divorce last year from his wife, who he'd been married to for 23 years, I believe. Yes, because he is 47, so therefore he would have been married for half of his life. And throughout the second half of the song, the phrase, half of my life, is sung backwards at different pitches and speeds. So, I think, though, one thing I noticed from looking at other analysis of songs is that people are trying to claim that every song is about his divorce, and I definitely wouldn't necessarily go that far. But this song probably has the most connection because of that line. I can't really say too much, because it's hard to describe music in that way without you having listened to it itself. But the main thing that I need to mention is that this is an example of what makes Radiohead great, their ability to take a simple concept, very minimalistic lyrics, but create that feeling of anxiety and feeling like an outsider, and yet have it still be a simple phrase that's just repeated over a simple melody. So, this is definitely one of the highlights on the album, and the music video of Tom York walking through different areas and doors to constantly wind up in different places was a very neat way to represent the concept. Next song is Dex, Dark. There isn't any song that I don't like on this album. I like all of them, but this is probably like one that I love the least. And it's another sort of ballad type song. There's a bit of a science fiction element that kind of reminds me of something like Sail to the Moon from Hail to the Thief. The lyric is, "And in your life there comes a darkness, this spacecraft blocking out the sky, and there's nowhere to hide." So, again, it's still a good song, but just, not one of my favorites. But then again, it might grow on me. What song was it? I did not used to actually be a fan of the song Karma Police, surprisingly enough. That was one of my least favorites off of OK Computer, and now it's one of my favorite Radiohead songs, just to show again how opinions on music can change. Side note, I'm boring. OK Computer is my favorite album by Radiohead, and Hail to the Thief is probably my second favorite, because my favorite Radiohead song, as of this recording, but it probably won't change, is A Wolf at the Door. The next song is Desert Island Disc, and this song has a segue from Dex Dark, and follows a similar pattern to it. And according to Genius.com, I haven't fact-checked this, is that Desert Island Disc is a play on a BBC program called Desert Island Discs, where celebrities must name 8 recordings, typically songs, that they would want to take with them away on a desert island. And just from reading the lyrics, there seems to be this concept of trying to sort of get away from it all and start again. So it could be, I think, related to that. It's one of my favorite lyrics. Well, there's some very nice imagery in these lyrics. The wind rushing round my open heart, an open ravine, in my spirit white, totally alive, in my spirit light. The next song, which is Full Stop. As I mentioned, this is a contender for probably my favorite track on the album, along with Daydreaming. This song is the first moment on the album where I got a very In Rainbows vibe, and that's probably because the drum beat that kicks in halfway to this song has a very similar tone and vibe to the drum beat of Weird Fishes from In Rainbows. This is probably also the sort of grooviest, like groove, not groovy, song on the album. There is a very simple bass line that repeats and then eventually keeps going over a very dancey drum beat. Again, with the Weird Fishes connection. The main lyrics that are repeated throughout the second half of the song for the dance bit is, "Truth will mess you up, all the good times." And like this song, it does the classic Radiohead vocal harmonies and layered vocals doing different lines. And yeah, this song really rocks, like takes its time to build up slowly with that groove, and listening from it, you know that beat will kick in, and then it does, and then the song just lets loose. And that was something that was done very well on In Rainbows and continues to be done well here. So I can definitely see myself listening to that a lot in the future. The next song is Glass Eyes, and this one is a shorter song, but it is probably still one of my more favorite tracks on the album because it's a very nice, simple piano ballad. And again, like most of Radiohead's work, this continues the focus on the isolation, alienation that's become a big part of their music. Like that's. I read an article, I think on Pitchfork. I mean, that isn't really too relevant, but basically talking about how Radiohead's music is an attempt to, describe how anxiety sounds, and I can definitely agree with that. And this one starts off with the line, "Hey, it's me. I just got off the train. A frightening place. Their faces are concrete gray, and I'm wondering, should I turn around?" So, being in a new place and not understanding where you need to go from here. The next song is Identikit, spelt in a weird way. Another really great song. I'm trying to think if this was the one I was talking about. No. There's a song I'll get to in a bit where I felt like each different part of it could be from a different part of In Rainbows, almost sort of Frankenstein together, but it's not this one. Identikit is still a great song. This one probably has the most guitar-based lead, as there's a sort of guitar solo, I think it counts, in the last section of the song. And I'm not exactly sure what this song is about for my own opinion, though. But as to what Genius.com says that it could be, there is the lyrics, "Broken hearts make it rain." So, could be that, it causes lovers to be depressed if love was never meant to be. Another lyric is, "Sweet-faced ones with nothing left inside, that we all can love, that we all can love, that we all can." I definitely, I assume if you're watching this review, you're going to listen to the album, but keep an ear out for that guitar lead at the end. It fits in quite nice with the song. This is the problem with, not being able to listen to the album. It is. I'm going to take a quick minute just to listen to the album again so that I could add some extra thoughts. And I am back after doing some quick more listening to have more things to say. Right. So the track I was about to talk about is The Numbers. And this one has almost a Western type feel. There's a very twangy Western sounding acoustic guitar with sort of a simple, almost marching like snare drum sound. So it's a nice feel for that. And the chorus with the line, "One day at a time," is simple enough, but in the hands of a great vocalist like Tom York, there is a lot of magic to be had. The main part where the title is used in the song is the lyric, "We call upon the people. People have this power. The numbers don't decide. Your system is a lie." So, I think some have tried to say it's a climate change related song, and that numbers not deciding means that despite the facts about global warming, there are still those who choose to ignore it. But, you could take this to mean other things, such as how you shouldn't let metadata necessarily be a determinant of people's identity. But, it's all just speculation. I'm sure once I've listened to this album many times, years down the road, I'll form new theories about it. And that is the genius of Radiohead's lyrics. Right, so the song that I stopped to re-listen to get all of my ideas and thoughts about in the right place was Present Tense, another one of my favorites. So, the songs that I had in mind when I thought of influences were that it has a vocal harmony of sort of oohs and ahs that remind me of Nude. The dance-like beat reminds me of Reckoner. The descending guitar line is similar to Jigsaw falling into place. And also, at one part in the song, there are echoed lyrics that are more mumbled, and that made me think of House of Cards. So, apart from Full Stop, Present Tense is the other song that has the most similarities to In Rainbows. And again, I probably like this one because it has more of an upbeat groove to it. I think that is one of my favorite things about Radiohead's music, besides the layered lyrics and multiple themes, is the idea of having music that is upbeat and catchy, but lyric-wise is a bit more darker. This one with more, it even references dance while being a dance song. I think it could be about how a certain hobbies or ideas can be used to help defend against negative thoughts, almost as sort of a catharsis. The second last song is Tinker, Tailor, Soldier, Sailor, Rich Man, Poor Man, Beggar Man, Thief, which is a popular English children's counting rhyme. Almost kind of like eeny, meeny, miny, mo. This song, I think, is the song that is going to sort of grow the most for me, because I was halfway through the song thinking, okay, this will probably be one of my lesser loved songs, such as Dex Dark or Desert Island Discs. But by the time I got to the end of it, I was really enjoying it. And that is the thing I can say about album reviews, is that it's very difficult to gain a completely objective and 100% accurate, non-changing opinion on an album from only one quick listen. So, take any of my music reviews for newer albums, with that in consideration. And the last song, which was the biggest surprise, the sort of holy shit moment, is True Love Waits. It finally has a studio version. This song, I don't know if I can call it underrated, because a lot of fans seem to like it, and even though I don't listen to it much, somehow it's still one of my favorite Radiohead songs. Before I listened to this new album version, I went back and listened to the live version from I Might Be Wrong, and I remembered almost every lyric and the vocal pattern and everything exactly, despite not having listened to it for a while. In fact, I hadn't even been in a Radiohead vibe for the last year or so. So that's how I know that it's a really good, memorable song for me. This song, True Love Waits, had been performed live in like 95, back around the time of their second album, The Bends. And the live album, I Might Be Wrong, which was released in 2001, had different versions of songs from Kid A and Amnesiac, and the song True Love Waits, a live recording of it, which was only an acoustic version with just Tom York on guitar. So the band never made a studio version because they felt that they could never get it to work right in the setting the way they wanted. And yet, finally it happened. It's here. After 21 years? Wow, that's crazy. Fun fact, I didn't necessarily register that this was the same song, because when I listened to the album on Apple Music, so as soon as I saw the album pop up, I just hit download, and I didn't scroll through the track listing. And it wasn't until I was opening the lyric pages and about to get to that part of the album that I actually looked to see what the next song was, and saw it was True Love Waits, and I thought, wait, is it that? True Love Waits? I mean, the thing is, with most of the songs on this album is they are variations on songs that had been performed in live settings before. I know lyrics from Burn the Witch have appeared on the artwork for Kid A and Amnesiac, so it's not like there was so much newer stuff. These ideas had already been floating around for a while. It's just they finally got them to work. That's been a common thing with Radiohead, but to specifically have a song that existed, everyone knew it was, and had been released live for 21 years, longer than any other song, that is, quite impressive and interesting to have finally happen. The big lyric that most people talk about is, "I'm not living, I'm just killing time." That's one of my favorite Radiohead lyrics, probably right up there with "Just 'cause you feel it doesn't mean it's there" from the song There, off of Hail to the Thief. I almost said Hail to the King because of Duke Nukem. Yeah, the version of this song is more piano-based rather than guitar-based, with a string section to it, and more layered vocals, obviously, since it's a studio setting. It's very difficult for me to say which version I prefer, since they both have different vibes to it, and obviously I've listened to the acoustic one more, so this would have the same effect as if someone took a non-acoustic song and made one for it. I could probably still enjoy it, but it would be different. I think that this song needs to grow on me a little more. I love it simply for the fact that it is True Love Waits. But the different idea of it being something I've heard so much in a completely different setting is what makes it very interesting to think about. Still, I do like that the chord pattern seems to slightly differ a little bit due to the piano arpeggios feeling slightly different than the guitar chords. So, that's another favorite, but I don't like it as much, this version, at least as much as Daydreaming or Full Stop. So, that's the track listing, track by track. Overall thoughts in terms of just a quick comparison. So, like I said, it's most similar to The King of Limbs and In Rainbows. I wasn't the biggest fan initially of The King of Limbs. Having listened to it again recently, getting ready for this album, I think I definitely look back on it more fondly than I did at the time. When I listened to it originally, I thought The King of Limbs was a good album, but nothing more than that. Now I can say I like it a little bit more than good. But with A Moon-Shaped Pool, I feel that I can instantaneously like this one a little more than good. I can see myself listening to this a bit more than The King of Limbs, and that's probably because it feels a little more normal, at least, than some of the songs off of King of Limbs that were definitely very weird, quote-unquote, like Bloom or Give Up the Ghost. In a quick comparison to other Radiohead albums, I mean, as I mentioned before, my favorites are OK Computer and Hail to the Thief. This doesn't sound like those two, so that's probably why I don't love it as much. But I would probably rank this in the middle of their discography. I am not going to give a score because as I review more newer albums that I've only listened to a few times, or just albums in general, I don't give scores to them, because unlike films, which, I sit down and I focus on it, I feel that albums, it's a little bit more easier to miss things because I'm only listening. I'm not necessarily focusing visually, except for reading lyrics sometimes. So because of that, I feel that it's quite easy to have a complete 180 of opinion. I mean, I used to not like Kid A or Amnesiac because they were too weird for me. So, go figure, things can change. So, if you are looking for a score of some sorts, though, for this new album, I will say that it's better than a average good Radiohead album. Yeah. Yeah. An average good Radiohead album is probably better than most bands' best albums, and this one is a little bit more than that. So, like I say, it's probably in the middle somewhere. I think some of the songs I wasn't too crazy on at first will probably grow on me more, and there already are a lot of songs that I can easily say are some of Radiohead's best, like Daydreaming, full stop. And simply for the fact that we got a studio version of True Love Waits is fantastic. The string section works very well, as it always does. Yeah, that's about the main thing I can say. So, I think that's about all I have to say for this review. I highly recommend this album. If you're a fan of Radiohead, you've probably already listened to it. If you haven't for some reason, go listen to it. It fits perfectly in Radiohead's discography. It's a great evolution of their sound. And here's to hoping that the next album won't take 5 years. Until then, thank you for watching the ASMR review show, and have a good night.